Hi, hey, howdy, hello, yes, welcome, greetings. Hi, I'm Chris and I'm the resident nerd of this channel and I'm going to be playing more Kerbal Space Program. And I'm setting up a maneuver node right now, which is not very exciting. But this is going to be the first burn, this is the kicker burn that raises our orbit up and does a lot of the work but does not actually send us on our way. By the way, I find it really amusing that down there in the corner, those Kerbals have gone into full shaky cam mode because I've sped up the footage so much that they... it's really funny to me. But now we're aimed in the right direction and we're ready for what is going to be about like a 7-minute burn, if I remember correctly. That will raise our apoapsis a lot. And then I set up a nice camera angle and I turn off the UI and we go. Unfortunately, the burn doesn't quite go correctly. You see me turning on the RCS, and then I have to turn on the UI again. The Parmenides is out of balance. It's a little heavier on one side than it is on the other, so I have to adjust the thrust of one of those engines to try to compensate for that. And I don't do a very good job of it on this first burn. All the rest of the burns are fine, but this first burn I show you in its entirety because I'm just all over the place. And you'll see the meter down there at the bottom. It stops at about 150 meters per second. This is supposed to be about an 800 meter per second burn, and I guess it's only a 650 meter per second burn, but that's fine. It's a recoverable error. This is an emission stopping error, so we can continue. And the way we continue is with some more boring maneuver node fiddling. This is the burn that will send us into interplanetary space on our way to Dres, and then we make another one just for the course correction maneuver to make sure it works, and then we get this really nice beauty shot because this game looks really pretty. I'm gonna have a few of these later, but this one is just really nice. And then we have this empty fuel tank, and since we're still in orbit of Kerbin, I feel like I should dispose of my trash, so I use the Pythagoras to grab a hold of it and then deorbit it very slowly, and then re-rendezvous the Pythagoras and reattach it where it's supposed to be. And now we're just going to have some beauty shots of our final orbit around Kerbin, and I'm going to shut up and let it speak for itself. This game is really pretty sometimes. But we're about to perform our ejection burn that will let us leave Kerbin and start on the way to Dres. And this burn and every other burn I do in this episode reveals a bug in the game where the engine noises don't play the first time you start the engine. But the burn lasts about 7 minutes, so I cut out most of it. And also, we come up a little bit short with just this fuel tank. This is the second fuel tank which was intended for this burn, and we came up a little bit short, so I opened up the third fuel tank, which is mostly intended for the plane change, and we're going to burn a little bit of that, but we'll be fine. You can't see what I'm doing at all because it's in the total darkness, but it ends up working out. This isn't like a problem, and here we are getting our interplanetary apoapsis all the way up, and then we have this nice shot of us departing Kerbin for the last time for a while, and it looks really pretty. And that's all of the Kerbals other than the 7 that are on this ship fading into the distance. And now we have a nice another pretty shot of us passing in front of the moon, and then the moon passes in front of the sun. Just some nice scenery that we get as we depart Kerbin. And now Kerbin is fading into the distance, and you can see, I think that's Minmus back there and some other things. And we're out of the sphere of influence of Kerbin, and we're planning our maneuver node for our plane plane change maneuver. This is going to put us, before we were on an orbit that gets to the same apoapsis as Dres, and now we're going to be, after we perform this maneuver, we're going to be in the same plane, so we will actually fly past Dres. That's the line you can see. And then I got just one more little pretty shot of us time warping through the solar system, because you can see, thanks to the distant objects enhancement mod, or whatever it's called, you can see the planets moving around in the background, and it looks really cool. But here we are at our plane change maneuver, getting ready to burn our engines. And this is another burn. It's actually not as long as any of the ejection burns, but we do cut through it just to make it a little bit easier to sit through. And then pretty much we fast forward from here all the way to Dres, more or less, and we have one quick radial burn that's gonna bring our periapsis around Dres down, but we're currently in the sphere of influence of Dres, and that means basically all we have to do is wait until we get closer to the dwarf planet, or dwarf planet. Kerbal Space Program says it's a dwarf planet, but it really isn't. Anyway, here we are, and we are about to start our insertion burn that will put us into orbit around Dres. And I say burn, but it's gonna be like several burns, because this takes a really long time. This is us burning out the tank that was for our plane change, what was left in there, and then we undock it quickly, and then we open up the last fuel tank. This is supposed to be the one that gets us inserted into orbit around Dres, but this burn is going to take a long time, and you heard again that it had the noise error. And we pass through our periapsis in about 15 kilometers above the surface of Dres, and then we keep going, and we're still burning, because I kinda started doing this a little later than I should have, and we're well past periapsis now, and we're still going. In fact, we are actually not going to get into orbit on this fuel tank, which is a problem. Our fuel tank is going to burn out right now, which means that I'm gonna have to open up the next stage, which is supposed to be our return stage, but it has plenty of extra fuel, so it won't be a problem. But it does mean we lose 2 of our engines, which means that we have less thrust, but that's not a problem. The real problem is that those 2 engines were the ones I had adjusted the thrust levels in order to keep us relatively stable, because the Parmenides is weight unbalanced. So as soon as we start burning, we start tilting to one side, and then I have to turn on the RCS in order to get us back on track, so that we can actually perform this burn in a controlled fashion rather than spinning around wildly. And so we just do it, and it takes a little while, and ultimately we get into orbit. We get into a very elliptical orbit of 30 million meters above the surface of Dres, or 30,000 kilometers, or 30 megameters, I think that's the word. But it also means that this orbit is very long. We're at a very low orbital speed, so it means that we have to sit here for 60 days as we wait to get to our apoapsis, at which point we will deploy our satellites in the next episode. We're here, and we had very few mistakes, and that's all for now.